This episode is brought to you by Silver Lining Herbs.
This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. What's up, everybody? This is The Gauge, and I am Chance Conrado. On this episode of the podcast, we've got Ashley Schafer, Jolene Montgomery, and Joy Wargo. So, something very historical happened. Jud Little Ranch had their disbursement sale, and JL Dash to Heaven, the great sire, sold for $1.75 million. This was a very fortuitous day because at the exact same time, we had these three ladies on the podcast. Jolene Montgomery trained and jockeyed that horse to great success. Ashley Schafer jockeyed that horse to great success. And Joy Wargo, her clients bought that horse. So I felt like it was a very lucky moment to have them on the show. They are very entertaining. We had a great conversation. The perspective of a barrel futurity trainer is so much different than it is from a rodeo athlete. They go through their own trials and tribulations, have their own perspectives. I can't think of very many people who are as respected in the industry as these ladies are. Check it out. Do they actually hate rodeo girls? That's what Ivy and Haley wanted to hear.
That's from Ivy and Haley?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's from Ivy mostly. It was like, because that's where we started out. Like, our folks were fraternity trainers way back east. And so before we even really knew about rodeo, we were in North Carolina. And my mom had epic battles with Troy Crumrine back in the early 2000s when we still had speed horses and all that. And Kelly was training some horses and stuff. But so that's all we really knew when we were growing up was fraternities.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything about rodeos.
Yeah.
Like, barely knew they existed. Probably when I was 15, I could tell you every fraternity trainer on the East Coast, but I couldn't tell you one person that went to the NFR.
It wasn't until we moved to Colorado that I started roping and doing stuff that I knew anything about rodeo, oddly enough. But so the interesting thing that a lot of people who like barrel racing, which is like the largest demographic probably for horses, period, bigger than team roping, know Ashley, Jolene, you guys got your start at Judd's, and it just so happens this big dispersal sale went on today, and we saw some crazy numbers. Yes. And Joy, you weren't at Judd's, but these two were. And one of the other questions that we had gotten from Ivy again, like, she must be like a fan of you guys. And she had such nice things to say about all you guys. Because like, let me start here, because I know she knows all three of them, and she had great things to say about all you guys. But each of you, she was like, yeah, they're all badasses. So that was a very nice compliment. But what was it like for you guys, like getting your start there? And then, like, what type of emotions does it bring back knowing that it's done?
I mean, for me, when I started at Judd's, I'd always wanted to be a fraternity trainer, and I had started to attempt it at home in Ohio, and I vaguely knew of Judd, but I really didn't have a good record. I mean, I had started colts, I was good there, but I never had anything super nice. So I basically begged for the job there, and I was lucky they hired me, and it was dang sure a dream job at first. They kind of turned me loose and just let me figure it out.
Yeah, what about you, Ashley?
Actually, when I started at Judd's, I'd never heard of a futurity. I had no idea what that was. I'd never heard of Judd. I'd never heard of Jolene. Like, I literally, when they say, like, naive, I mean, I knew nothing. I was super naive to it. I was actually a licensed massage therapist for people, and I did want to train horses. I roped and ran barrels a little bit and just didn't want to. I grew up in Iowa and didn't want to spend my whole life there because it was really hard to really do much with the horses. That, you know, you had a few months there that you could do some stuff, but I just wanted to be in a place where I could do a little bit more. So we moved to Oklahoma, and I was actually applying for different massage therapy jobs and was just going to train a few of my own horses on the side. And I had started a job at Two Frogs in Ardmore, and I needed another job just to get me by until I could get, you know, kind of on my feet. I hadn't been down there very long. So I went out to Judd's. Just somebody tipped me off and said, you know, go out there and apply. You know, it's all girls working out there. So I did. And they hired me to lope their open horses. So I started there, and I met Jolene for the first time. Do you want me to tell them the story, or do you want to leave that out? Yeah? Should we go into
Might
that?
as well.
Let's get into it. Although, how much is in that beer? Do we need to take a quick break already?
Right.
Ashley loves to tell this story.
So I start there. I've been there for almost a week. Jolene was gone. Nobody was there. I was the only one there riding. And I'm just loping. I had like 5 horses to lope, okay? And they're older, open horses. I'm just keeping them exercised for Maddie and Bennett because they're out on the road. And Tiffany Fox was there at the time too. So I was just keeping those horses fit for them. And then when they needed to switch out, they could. Anyway, so I'm there the first week by myself. And I'm really talkative, and I like people a lot. So I was bored.
Joy's over here like, yeah, she's really talkative. Because the thing people say about Joy is that she is not talkative.
No, she's very quiet. We'll get into that. Yeah. So I'm really excited for everybody to get back, So Jolene gets there, and like I said, I don't know Jolene. Turns out she's like a total badass, and I didn't know that. I found out later.
I mean, she looks like she could whoop some ass.
Right. Yeah,
That
you should have
one
seen her
over
this
there.
day.
Joy is the one been working out.
So Monday rolls around. I'm all excited. Everybody's going to be there. I ride down the hill. Jolene's in the arena, and I just ride right up to her because I'm not shy at all. And I'm like, hey, you must be Jolene. I'm Ashley. It's so nice to meet you. And she literally does this. I am not even kidding. She gave me like the hussy stare down, like, bitch, don't talk to me like that. Excuse my language.
I'm not gonna lie though. There had been a lot of girls there that loped open horses that didn't know a thing that I'd already met over the last couple of years at Judd's that I was like, oh God, there's another one.
So, I was like, okay, all right. And she had a full face of makeup on, by the way. I'm talking pink eyeshadow.
What year was this?
I mean, it
A
was
long
in
time ago. I couldn't
2009.
even find my makeup bag
2009.
today.
It was 2009 it was February 2009. So, full face of makeup. All right. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. Nice to meet you. I just kept riding.
Did you go cry after that?
No, I'm not much of a crier. So it was fine. I just rode. And then time goes by, and I'm watching her, and I'm like, I've never seen anybody ride like this or train like this in my life, right? I'm like so intrigued. I did it really secretly because she had really big arms and already had stared me down with the death glare. So, like, I wasn't going to let her see me watch her, but I was like watching everything that she did because it was so cool and super intriguing. I
was watching
a little
Ashley
bit.
too because how do I put this? The girl that was helping me at the time wasn't as experienced. Anyway, so I was watching Ashley like, I need that girl to warm my horses up. She is way better. So I finally talked Ashley into coming to join us at the training barn. And
Ooh, promotion.
It was 6
I don't know if
months
it paid
in.
any better.
Yeah. No, it paid the same, and it was longer hours. I had to do a lot more. When I worked in the upper barn, I worked 8:30 to 5. Okay, it was like cake job. I had like 5 or 6 horses to ride.
Yeah.
It was great. And then Jolene, I had been there about 6 months, and she's like, hey, the girl that was working for her was going to school, and so she was leaving. She's like, would you come down? If I had talked to Judd about it, would you come down to my barn and work for me? And I'm like, yes. She's like, you're going to have to be here at 7, though, instead of 8:30. I'm like, yes, I will be there.
Sort of. 7:15.
7:15-ish in Ashley time.
Oh, I see what's going on.
Right. But, close. So I got to do that, which was really awesome. So it was a great step up, even though it was more hours. But it was fun. So that was kind of my start, how I got into the futurity thing, I guess.
Right. Yeah, everybody kind of has their own entry. But Jolene, you had just applied, got in there, and then kind of became the standout of that whole program for quite a while.
I got lucky.
Yeah, some ridiculous horses.
Yes.
And what's interesting is we have a lot of rodeo people on this show. I mean, because we're in Fort Worth. I mean, rodeo, like a rodeo capital, but for people who grew up or know a lot, like the fraternity world is like its own planet. it's so different. And a lot of rodeo people don't realize how different it is because a lot of the big fraternities, they don't exist anymore, which is really strange. But like that's what I grew up in. It's just being at Lazy and the speed horses and all that MBHA bull crap that used to happen back east. I think they still do it, don't they?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't call it bull crap. It's great that it's been able to live that long, but it's a term of endearment. But like it's just a different world, and to see how polar opposite the culture is of barrel fraternities versus rodeo, WPRA. It's just crazy. And then you see people like you who haven't spoke yet, by the way. And you're like, thank goodness I don't have to speak. But or just drinking water. You're so healthy. But
She also worked out this morning.
oh, you did not work out this morning?
She did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Like 6 days a week, hardcore.
Ooh.
She'll have to show you her abs.
Oh,
She
snap.
has like a real 6-pack.
You're getting a little carried away.
Even after quarantine?
More so after
We never
quarantine.
really stopped.
We didn't really.
Really?
We didn't really participate in the quarantine.
Because you don't live close enough
These
to a
guys-
city.
You guys
We
actually
work
went
from
to the gym
home.
with us then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
our
I mean,
horses have to be fed. We're essential.
exactly. Well, I mean, that's the thing with anything horses. It's like the horses 7 days a week have to be fed. You have to do all that. Even on Christmas. That's why I hated it so much.
Oh, I
It's
love
Christmas.
it. 'Cause
You got to
I'm-
feed before Christmas.
That's okay. I don't particularly love the family functions all the time, so I'm like, I have to feed horses on Christmas.
Oh,
I'm
it's
sorry,
the
I can't
best
come.
excuse to get out of things.
Yeah.
That's always what we've used it for. I mean, my sister to this day still does that. Oh, sorry, I got to take care of the horses. But when we were growing up at Kelly's house, it was different. It was just different. She's like, oh man, I don't mind getting up at 7. Well, I mind getting up at 5 and then going to bed at 8, riding not 6 horses, no, like 12. But and this is a kind of a funny question that Ivy of all people had, but what are you guys' opinions on rodeo girls? Like, do you guys really hate them?
No.
Since Joy hasn't talked.
Joy,
Yeah.
let's
We'll
start
let
with
Joy
you.
go.
You have the best mic.
It's just a different world. It seems like the rodeo deal is so secretive and everybody's competing with everybody, and the futurity deal, everybody wants you to win. Like, they want the best colt to win, and they'll help you if you're struggling. They'll kind of go, hey, is there something I can do to help you out? I might have an idea to make you a little better. And everybody embraces it. And I think a lot of times the rodeo girls, they buy a winner and they think they're going to just go win. And they don't understand how much work goes into it as far as a young horse to keep them up and running and winning. And then they get a little proud and don't want to get help. And we get frustrated with them there because, we put 2 or 3 years into a horse and then they go rodeo. And a lot of times you don't get any, because like you said, it's so different. And the groups that follow those are so different. Nobody ever knows where those horses came from and that they were winners a lot of times before they got to the rodeo rank.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, it's Cassie Mowry kind of brought it to light how much money she won.
Right.
But a lot of people didn't realize how lucrative.
Well, I got the biggest kick out of when Cassie made the NFR in 26 rodeos.
She's like, oops, accidentally made the NFR.
yeah.
That was
And
sad.
everybody's like,
Now I have to
who's
miss the
Cassie
BFA?
Mowry? I'm like, are you kidding? You don't know who Cassie Mowry is?
I know the announcers. I don't know if it was the NFR or what was it the ERA?
Maybe.
When you could tell he was like reading from a sheet when Cassie came in. He was
Was
like,
it those
Cassie
ERAs?
Mowry and this horse. Like
Yeah,
nobody
you're
had
like-
ever heard of her. Heard of Cassie, and we're like, oh my god.
You don't want that girl to play in your world.
Right.
That girl makes
We
a
would
winner
appreciate it if
every
she just
year.
Did you guys see her interview at Houston when she won Houston last year? She was just like, it was almost like, this is stupid. It's like her attitude. I was like, that was
Because
the
the
best
paycheck
interview
was
I've
so
ever
much
seen.
lower than what she's used to.
She's
Yeah,
just
and that was
so-
$50,000.
Cassie's just really low drama, just real even. It's probably why she wins so much. She's got ice water running through her veins.
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy because even down to like the weirdest thing, like if okay, this sounds bad, but if you say guy and barrel race in the same sentence, then you get the next word gay. Mm-hmm. That's just not true. I mean, the most winningest barrel fraternity person ever is Troy Crumrite, and you said nobody knows who that guy is.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
My dad
Crazy.
trained some fraternity horses
Yeah.
too. Back
It's
in the day,
ins-
a little bit.
It's insane that you can say that and some of these guys don't know who that is.
Isn't that crazy?
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So
How much
crazy.
has he won? Him and
he's
Cassie?
over
3 million.
he's over 3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are him and Cassie the only two that are over 3 million? maybe.
I don't.
I think so. I'm pretty
They
sure.
used to do that in Barrel Horse News. They used to do that stat thing that would
Right.
show like
They still do it.
Do they still do
Yeah.
it?
It's
you
like a
can't
10-year
find
deal
it.
now.
Right now, yeah.
It's every
Instead of, like, a
decade.
lifetime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. But it's a different culture, and out here in Texas, you get both.
Yeah.
Which is what's interesting.
And I'd like to add to that. Your original question: do we really hate rodeo girls? Of course not. Honestly,
That's from $1 million cowgirl.
right? Yeah,
We
no,
definitely
no
don't
way.
hate Ivy.
But like,
or any of them.
I don't know that many rodeo girls. I do know, like, when there's a crossover, when they do both, when they come to futurities and rodeo, those girls that I know, there's definitely a mutual respect from them. And same thing, like when I venture out and say I'm going to go rodeo and go to my 5 rodeos and go back home, I'm like, yeah, y'all are tough. No,
Seriously.
That road is
bad.
it's a long road.
I need more chances than one to win.
Right.
Like-
Can we not drive 8 hours for one chance?
Right, need more
Bad
chances.
ground? No. Like, that's some mentally tough people.
Right.
I went one year over the 4th, and actually, your dad offered to enter me up.
Of course he did.
And I
He's
said,
an expert of
"Kelly."
entering.
I said, Kelly, just remember, I'm one person with one horse when you're doing this, okay? Just
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was like, Kelly, I got my call back. So I'm like,
Never seen anything like that. No, he is a pro comp expert.
and he
I
did
had
good, but
I
it
had
was
to
a lot.
let Ann enter me. I think I went to 10 rodeos last year that Ryan talked me into. Padone is another one. Don't try to keep up with her. No. She talked me into this, and Ann entered me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Ryan's all excited. Meet me here at 3 a.m, and then she's 2 hours late, and I'm like, okay, here we go. I love her.
Oh, we say that with endearment.
Yes.
And I say that with endearment with Kelly. Like, I was so grateful he did it because I wouldn't have got entered. But, like, one of them, I had to drive to Greeley, Colorado and pay my, like, I think it was like $216, something like that. Huge entry fee.
Mm-hmm.
And right after, I was in the slack after they bucked the last bowl, and then the bottom fell out of this
at Greeley,
cloud.
everybody leaves.
Downpours. No, and I mean, like, this rains. It downpours.
Uh-huh.
Okay, the ground was perfect for the perf, and then it just downpours. And I'm on a colt. Okay, I'm on a 5-year-old that just finished her futurity year. And so we all go stand under this tent, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm up at 8 a.m. slack in Belle Fourche. I'm number 15. I'm just gonna go. And they're like, you're gonna have to pay a $50 turnout fee if you do that. And I'm like,
All the real rodeo girls are going to be listening to this like spoiled sissies.
right. So I'm like, I guess I'll stay and lope through. So I lope through in the mud. Now I have muddy boots. Now I have to drive all night to Belle Fourche. I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to drive all night to Belle Fourche, South Dakota to be up in 8 a.m. slack. Okay. I pull in at 7. I get there, I get my fees paid. I'm going to go do this. Okay. I get warmed up and I run my mare, and she makes this phenomenal run, and I'm winning it for like the first 80, but then the ground dries out because it was muddy when I ran. So now they've ran all these horses, and then the ground dries out, and I end up 1 hole out of the money. And I'm like, oh, these girls are tough. Like, I can't do this.
The inconsistency in rodeo, and it's not
Yes.
it's just all the events. I mean, look at Calgary every year. The inconsistency is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
So they just have to be so mentally tough. And that's why I say I like what Jolene said about that mutual respect. You know, we don't hate rodeo girls by any means. I don't envy them by any means. Like, what we do is hard. What they do is hard. Training horses is hard. Running barrels and being a competitor in any event is hard. And there's a knack to all of it. So I think I have a lot of respect for them, especially, you know, like Ivy. You know, she has Salty little mare that I ran back in 2018, and she's done such a good job just taking her time, getting with that horse and doing what she needed to do to get her to that next level. And she didn't just get on her and say, okay, I'm going to go I'm going to go win at the rodeos. She took the time that she needed.
Which is so out of
Several
character for her.
Jackpots.
I think those girls, though, that have done both or have an understanding of how the training process works, they do such a better job at seasoning those horses.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I think a lot
they
of
see
times,
what's done.
yeah, those horses, they leave the futurity deal. They were maybe the high money earner, and one of two things happens. Those girls just run them to the point that they can't take it, and they don't realize how much homework during the week goes in to keep them right. Or those horses are they have no self-preservation, and that's why they win like they do, and then they cripple in the first few rodeos they go to. And then it's over.
Yeah.
The ones that do both, I think it's really neat to watch as they bring one along, because the rodeo deal is so much different than the fraternities. And the pressure situations are different, and the environment's so much different. So it's fun to watch them come along and watch those horses progress and then go on to have long careers.
Guys, I want to take a quick second to talk to you about Silver Lining Herbs. Ashley and Joy have been using Silver Lining Herbs for the last 5 years to great success. People like Sherry Survey have been using Silver Lining Herbs for over 20 years. They offer an array of products for both equine and canine, and they're starting to produce products for human consumption as well. Check them out at silverliningherbs.com. Use the promo code GAUGE at checkout for a nice little 15% discount. But so that was like the next thing when you guys, because when you work at like a breeding program and you start from an insemination or something with those colts to get them, just the potential to even see if they are worth a shit. Let's be real. That is such a long investment and such a long process that you guys get to see. Most of these people, they go, I mean, how many $100,000 rodeo horses to just disappear? You know, I mean, what is it like for you guys getting to see that from start to finish? And I just so happen to have grown up on a breeding program ranch, and you get to see that, but it's such a long investment, and you only get so many years. And if you're going 4 years at a time with horses when you're fraternity trainers, I mean, and you see one make, and then it kind of disappears in the rodeo world, does that, I mean, what kind of emotion does that create for, you know, you guys as fraternity trainers?
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Straight up. I mean, if it doesn't work for whatever reason after they leave us, I mean, whether we raised them, Judd raised them, or an owner bought them as a 2-year-old, you know, we've spent anywhere from
2 to 3 years.
Yeah, sometimes 3 years with them. And you pray the new owners, you know, they work well at the horse and they come get help. And when it works, we couldn't be more proud. I mean, it's better than even winning on them yourself. And then when it doesn't, or if they don't come back to you for help and you see it going downhill, we can see it a mile away. And it's heartbreaking when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, definitely.
I always like those people that'll, when it does go south, they'll come back.
Yeah.
You know, most people will, you know. Ivy definitely did. You know, she came, and Ivy's a great horseman, so she didn't have to get a ton of help. But when she needed it, she did. Or she sends videos, and she always tags me and everything. You know, she's awesome. But they aren't all like that, you know. Not all people are like that. Not all. Most people want to kind of take the credit. Ivy's so good to give credit, you know. So that's awesome. But I also have, like, a horse that I've won quite a bit on. And Busby's own him, and Andrea's getting with him, and she's the same way. You know, she's sending back to me a couple times. She's done that with another horse too. She's really good to, you know, bring him back when things aren't going good.
Yeah, Andrea's such a nice lady.
Oh, she's awesome. And, you know, and I want her to do good on him, you know, and go on with him. And so, you know, like Jolene said, it's just when they'll do that, and we can help them get to that next spot. That's what we want, you know. Contrary to popular belief, we actually want those horses to go on and win with the next person.
Yeah, so there's no jealousy there.
Oh,
no.
Zero. We don't want a rodeo.
It's so important that those horses are successful when they leave our programs. How do you think we get more horses to ride?
Yeah.
Like, the more winners we can produce, no matter who. And, you know, I'm a little different than these guys. I don't win as much as they do. What I'm really good at is building a horse someone else can win on.
Outstanding.
I need those horses to be successful. And I'm willing to do anything it takes. I'm willing to work as hard as whatever girl it is that's riding that horse. Whatever she's willing to do, I'm willing to do too. If it means meeting her somewhere to tune it, or finding somebody to help her if she's gone, or bringing the horse back, or doing vet appointments to try and get it healthy while she's on the road. I mean, like, I'm all in. We're one big team.
Right.
And it's that same way with our owners too. You know, if I've got a horse that I'm doing all right on, but I think it'd be better suited for one of these guys' program, I'm going to call my owner and say, hey, I think your horse would have a better chance if Jolene or Ashley rode it, or whoever it is. And because that's the point. Like, our job is to produce winners, and it doesn't matter who's on it.
Yeah. We like to see great horses win, no matter who's riding them.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about the barrel horse industry is it's 99% about the horse. You know, especially the futurities, and there's just such a long tradition of great horses going to these futurities and then the derbies, and then you just don't like the actual specific horses. You see it a little bit more now with social media and all that, but not too terribly long ago. I mean, you could name 10 great futurity horses, or you could name 10 great rodeo horses.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in the barrel horse industry, and it's just really interesting, and that we just saw, you know, JL dash to heaven $1.75 million, which is very interesting that Jolene and Ashley, you guys are all sitting here a couple hours after that happened. It was like, oh, that's pretty lucky for me. But but when you see a sire go for, like a barrel sire go for money like that, when not too terribly long, decade and a half ago, the first $200,000
Yep.
barrel horse got bought. Shear, Carisha
Yeah,
Carisha
yeah.
Shear. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the
French
first.
Dividend.
I was really young, but I remember the BFA. I think was it the BFA sale that horse sold for that, or someone bought it at the whatever.
I
It
don't
doesn't matter.
remember.
I just remember that was
Did
a
she go to
lot.
Brazil?
Yeah, I think she went to Brazil.
Yeah.
But was the mare sold at the BFA?
I don't remember.
Was it sold in Oklahoma City?
Either.
I think that was just a couple years before I moved out here.
Yeah, but I mean that if you look at anything historical, that horse selling for the amount of money she did, that was the most ever. And then to see, like, there's people who can't even understand how much money that is in the
Yeah.
world. So many.
Insane.
And then with everything that's going on in the world right now with the coronavirus and like the country's falling apart,
Horse
and
people are still crazy.
horse people are still ready to spend money like
Yeah.
that. Like, if that doesn't give a lot of people hope in this industry, I don't know what does.
Right.
I want to know what it feels like to have trained that horse.
Oh, you
'Cause
might be like, tear up.
We know.
Yes. Did you guys see Corey Solomon bawled his eyes out on this
I
show
mean,
talking about his dad? It was amazing.
I remember
Your turn.
the amount of freaking, and I didn't even see behind the scenes. It was just while we were at places while I was still stalking you and things like that. But knowing the amount of try that you put into that horse.
I was telling my sister and husband on the way over here, I was like, I mean, I can't take all the credit. I tried to get Judd to send them to somebody else more experienced than me at first because I'm like, I don't know what to do with him. But I just kept trying. I mean, you could feel the talent in every inch of that horse's body immediately, but there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and try and pulling my hair out and staying up all night and getting creative to get him where he was. And I was just fortunate to be in the right place at the right time to train him. And I don't think I've completely processed it. Like it's
Because it just happened? Because we literally were in the same day?
nuts.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
can't imagine. Which kind of is interesting because what a lot of people maybe don't know who are really interested in becoming trainers or things like that, I don't think they realize how hard it is to even train a stud to do anything. Like anything.
And what's bad, it is hard, and you have to think about every single thing you're doing with them, especially in public, because the general public may not realize that's a stud, and if they do, they don't know how they act. You have to just be on them, constantly babysitting them, and their minds work different. You kind of have to trick them into doing things. Like, they're not like, you can't just say, this is what we're doing today to a stud. And they're like, okay. They're like, nah, how about we do this? And you have to, like, trick them into it, like reverse psychology.
How about we squeal at everything that
Right.
walks by? How about we rear up and stand on our back legs for 10 minutes? Yes,
Right.
That's
You know,
studs.
but then I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I guess because I got to ride Dash to Heaven, a great stud, there's no other feeling in the world like it than running a great stallion down the alley. They'll give you so much more, and the power just under you, and I don't even know how to explain it. Like why did they do this? Why did they even try that hard? A great stallion will try harder than anything else you've ever ridden, and it's pretty awesome. And they do bond with you. I mean, you have to watch it. They're a stud, but even like when they're not being studdy, they're pretty lovey. They love to be petted and their attention, and I mean, you still have to watch them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had Dark Kelly in our barn for years, and he's a mean sucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dash to
He'd
Heaven
grab
was never
people when they
mean,
walked
but he
by,
was
yeah.
ornery and
So
obnoxious.
He was like, so Dash to Heaven was a 4-year-old when I started there. So I didn't see his training process to get to his futurity year, but I started there in
We don't
February.
need to talk about it. All
Right.
Of it.
Yeah. But I
You guys
got-
can talk about all of it if you want. We got plenty of time.
I got there in February of his futurity year. And so, like I said, I missed the part leading up to that, but he was so obnoxious. And I had never been around a stallion, and I was pretty intimidated by him at first. But like Jolene said, he wasn't mean. He was so obnoxious and just like we had a 9-horse trailer, and he always had to be in the front of it. And you get about halfway out backing, and then he would run backwards. And he could run backwards almost as fast as he could run forwards, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
he was really fast at that too.
Screaming.
And you couldn't stop him, by the way. It wasn't one of those deals where you were like, I'm going to teach him. No. You better roll with him.
Yeah.
So you don't lose him.
But he wasn't going to hurt himself.
No.
Or you.
No, he was so athletic, like he could do it and not destruct himself. But he would run off, and so you were like just going with him, and then he would get off of it, and you were still on, and he would rear straight in the air, like climbing and squealing. And this was only at home. It was like he didn't do it at the show.
No, he learned how to act in
Thank
public.
God.
Semi.
Because usually we were on concrete at the show when we had to unload, you know. He only did it at home. It's like he knew his mares, and he was
announcing
home.
his presence.
He's
back
like,
home.
I'm back,
King of the
ladies."
jungle is home. But I do have to add, for anybody listening, I get pretty tired of people that have never had to haul a stud, or they had one stud and it was the gentlest thing on the planet. I get really tired of hearing, well, my stallion would never act like that. I would teach him better at home.
They know nothing.
No.
No,
'Cause we
They
always
either-
had two
they act
or
like that
three
or they
studs.
don't. Either they're gentle or they're not. You
Yes.
can't control that.
Well, and there's nothing more terrifying than riding a bad stud.
No, it
Yeah.
No,
that is
no matter
terrifying.
what you do, it's the scariest thing ever. I mean,
Yeah.
you're always scared you're going to get hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I've been hurt by a couple of them.
yeah, so have I.
Not Dash to Heaven, actually.
But every no, but every good
They already wrote
stud
the check, so it's
I've ever
fine.
trained has been obnoxious. I've had about 3 studs in the barn that were super well behaved and never said a word, and then had a run worth of shit.
yeah, they weren't good.
They weren't at all.
Well, most of them don't. Most of them don't try.
No.
In anything.
It's like the more obnoxious they are, the
Better.
yeah.
Dash to Heaven had more try than anything I've ever been on, I think. He was so, like, just, it wasn't always in a good direction, but he was trying really hard at whatever he was doing. I would lead him to his turnout, and he walked on his hind feet all the way to it. I swear to you. Like, he would just, all the way to it, and you were just like, stop it. You know,
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't kill me either. You know, and he wasn't trying to. Like,
No.
He wasn't trying to be bad. He was just, again, announcing his presence. One time I was leading him, and he had his head down, and he was being all quiet. And I still had 2 hands on the rope, don't get me wrong, but he was just being really good. And I'm like, why is he being so good? You know? And then all of a sudden he goes, "Ah!" And like just one leg, boom, hits me in the arm, catches the rope, pulls it, gets it out of my hands, obviously.
Oh, I turned him loose at Dodge City at the rodeo.
Oh, I did that once too.
Yep.
But then he stood there. He didn't do anything. Like he knew he was loose, and he stood there and he was like,
All right, that took it too far.
I wasn't supposed to do that, and I went and caught him, and he was fine.
Yeah. Well, even when he got away from me at Dodge City. So I got to tell this story quick because I thought I was going to die. All I could picture were electric fences everywhere. So I think this was the last time when I handed the reins to Bennett. This was the last time I ever ran him. It was like the second go at Dodge City. I went to a few rodeos with Maddie that year, and we stayed at Bow Hills, and I had Dash to Heaven, and me and Maddie got there a little late because Maddie was always late too. So we had to park way out in the back, and everybody had their electric pens set up, and I went to bridle him, and he was bad about trying to get away when you bridled him because studs are always trying to get loose. So I unbuckle his halter and strap it back behind his ears so I still have a hold of him, put his bridle on, and then, then generally you unhook the halter and the bridle's on, everything's good. Well, he figured this out. I get the bridle on, so he backs up and puts his head down and pulls the halter and bridle off both and takes off. Luckily, he stopped at the first electric fence setup pen and let us catch him because I was like, code red. Somebody help now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He did that to me once at Casper. I was just there. I was hauling him for Bennett at that time. And I was just going to ride him around to get some of the fresh off of him before the rodeo. And he got away. Oh, my goodness. It was a disaster. He ran through the stall barn. Thank God. I was yelling. I'm like, help! Somebody stud loose! Really obnoxious stud loose! And so somebody met me there, and we cut him off and got him caught in the stall barn. Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting about him selling is he's got so much life left.
Yeah.
I mean, he's relatively young.
Is he 15?
15.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they play their cards right, they'll get that money back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, Jolene, one thing I wonder is, were people surprised when you left Judd's?
I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, I'd been there 4.5 years, and I mean, I guess maybe a few people were, but I don't know. Like, that's just not. I always had plans to have my own operation, and things change over the years. Like those kind of jobs, I don't think they're seldom lifetime jobs. I mean, people change, expectations change, your goals change. It was always my goal to have my own operation, and Kirby and I got married that year, and they had a place where we live now, and so it all worked out. It was time.
Definitely worked out. It's going to keep working out, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Joy, like you said, you haven't won as much as these gals, but you have a lot of respect, and Ashley and Jolene both really respect you a lot. I mean, doing it the way you do, I mean, what is your approach when you get a new horse? I mean, when you get a client horse, I mean, what is your initial approach? I think a lot of young girls would really like to kind of know what your guys' approaches are, especially knowing that everybody kind of started with nothing when they got into this.
Well, I guess a lot of my clients plan to rodeo, and my job is to make a horse that's a nice, solid, consistent horse that's going to go be a rodeo horse. And to me, the best way to know if one of those horses is going to handle pressure is to futurity them. There's no bigger entry fee than entering a slot race and running for $100,000. So that's the best way to expose these horses to as much pressure as possible. And I know our environment's a little bit different and the atmosphere's a little bit different, and we haul them a lot. There's a lot of times we haul them 1,000 miles and they have 20-hour trailer trips where they don't get unloaded. And what better way to know if that horse is going to make it on the road, what they're going to be able to handle. So a lot of times mine's more about building the horse for when we're finished than it is about winning. And sometimes I get lucky and those horses can go ahead and we can win on them along the way, or we can place them along the way. And sometimes we got to slow things down and just build, instead of always worrying about winning, it's more about building a champion when we're done.
Makes sense.
So my process is kind of slow and steady, and we just train on them for a couple years. And if those horses need a little bit more seasoning, a lot of times they'll stay and I'll derby them, and then they go out after that back home, and the girls go rodeo on them.
It's interesting to see how different people in the industry kind of carve out their niche. It's like I've always thought of Kelly, like my dad. He's the repairman. Like he takes people's horses that are screwed up, and very few people can fix a horse that well. Where there's people like Jolene, Ashley, who are winners, and people do things the way that you do it. And I mean, Cassie Mallory's a winner. I mean, you have people like that. You've got rodeo people, but there's so much diversity in this one single thing, which is what's kind of outside the athleticism of the horse and kind of all the preconceived notions about barrel racing. I mean, it's kind of an amazing culture. I mean, it really is. And you have that culture in team roping in its own way and other things, but it's very unique in the barrel horse industry. Just, it's such a positive culture for the most part. There's bad, but I mean, for the most part, it's almost all positive.
It really is. And like, I don't think very many people realize that a trainer like Joy is like one in a million. She's a winner too. And, it's not very many trainers that will back off and say, you know what, I could probably win on this horse right now, but you need it, for later. And that's why her clients go to her. And she won't tell you, but I'll brag on her. Like, she takes better care of her horses than anybody I've ever seen. And those horses get the best of the best. And she's willing to sacrifice her own name in the spotlight sometimes for someone else. And not too many people do that. And I don't know what Joy charges, but it's not enough.
That's the thing. One, some people don't appreciate that either. They want to win now, even though they want a horse later. They want their cake and they want to eat it too.
And some horses can do both, but a lot can't.
But a lot of them can't, and we have to let them come into that. And honestly, that's what. And the other thing with it is, we don't make very much. Contrary to popular belief, I'm sure that people think we make.
I grew up on that.
Yeah, you know.
You don't got to tell me. Yeah. It's like, I remember things I wanted.
It's not profitable.
We know every flavor of ramen noodles.
Yes.
All three.
I have big boxes of 2 different kinds in my cupboard, because it's not profitable. If you're not winning or selling horses for commission or have your own that you're selling, you're barely, or doing clinics, you're barely getting by.
Yeah.
I mean, Joy and I both do quite a few clinics or riding lessons. Jolene wins a ton, so she doesn't have to. Joy and I'm a little more like Joy. I'm a very slow trainer. It takes me a long time to get one made. I don't typically start winning on them till later in the year, and then but that's I'm like Joy. My ultimate goal is to have a horse at the end of the year to either sell for a lot of money or the owner to go on to win on. So I'm a little bit, more like her. She says I win a lot. I don't really think I win a lot, but
she's rolling her eyes.
No, but so same deal. But like I said, I think that there's something to be said for that. I'm with Jolene on that. I think that there's not as much appreciation for that as there should be sometimes.
Yep.
No, just this whole time you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
But really, it's all passion is what's really inspiring about it. And there's a lot of people who do it for that. They want that spotlight.
Right.
But when you don't, and it's your lifelong passion, and that's just what you've dedicated your life to, I mean, you give up a lot.
Yeah. Man. Well, and you have to love it. I've just got to say the one thing, like me and Haley, my sister, were talking the other day, like, people have approached me about clinics and videos and selling bits and this and that. And I've thought about it. I've rolled it around in my head. And then, I'm like, I'll do a clinic if I'm really broke and I have to. It's not that I don't like helping people. It's just that I love training horses. I love horses. And I'm not saying there's a lot, but, you can tell in the industry when somebody doesn't. Like, it shows.
If they don't love horses?
Right. Like, just love training horses.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys, since you all went out on your own and have your own deals, did you ever work for an outfit, Joy, or you've always been on your own? Always a freelance barrel racer.
Well, I like young horses. It was fun to watch them grow. It was fun to watch them get better all the time. And I got lucky, and I had the Smoking Coalina horse. And he wins enough to keep my name there enough that I have horses to ride. But when I got to go to those futurities, I had a horse or two before that, but he's the one that won, and kind of got me started. But it was so much. And like Jolene said, I still don't talk a ton, but I didn't hardly talk at all when he was a futurity horse. I didn't know anybody, and I kind of just sit on the fence and watch the girls ride, and see what I liked and what I wanted to learn and who I wanted to ride like. And the one thing that was really neat about the futurity deal was when I had Smoke, I'd went and got some help from Latrice, and it took her
Latrice Duke.
Yeah, it took her 5 minutes to change his world, change mine, and she knew what I had when I didn't, and she didn't take advantage of me, and that was really something neat. And then along the way, every futurity we went to, her and J.O. and Jolene, they included me in everything. Like every meal they ate, they took me along, and those people were so nice and so interested in you doing well that there was no way you couldn't be hooked on riding colts. And like we bought a couple every year and would have one here and there and then sell it. That's how I got started. When we sold Smoke, we sold him for a bunch of money. I was able to quit my daytime job and start training horses. And then I've had a couple that are really, really nice along the way. But it's, to me, I enjoy watching the horses grow and get better. Honestly, I couldn't even care if I entered a barrel race. But it's so much fun to watch the girls win on those horses. Like, I want to throw up when I'm sitting in the bleachers. And like the Frenchman or Hotstead and Katie Jill Boyd running one of the qualifiers when I still had him. And like she jump rode her freaking futurity colt in a qualifier and qualified for the American semifinals. And like I'm in the bleachers, I want to throw up. I think I got fever blisters and like it was killing me. I was pacing. I don't even know what to do with myself. But it's so exciting when those girls are successful on those horses that, man, what better reason to do it?
Yep.
Yeah. For someone who doesn't talk very much, that was pretty awesome little monologue there. But it's just all three of you guys are so passionate about it, and you all bring something different to the industry that's so important. And it seems like there's less fraternities than there should be. And hopefully, I mean, Joy, this is something I was talking to you on the phone weeks ago, talking about trying to grow the sport, get more exposure. I mean, there's a lot, right? Like if a barrel horse sells for $1.75 million, I mean, we're at a pinnacle. But do you guys feel like there's not enough fraternities right now?
There's a lot of breeders' fraternities.
Yeah.
There are. I don't know. I have so many questions about that. I want our industry to be bigger and better all the time. You know, I have questions like, why don't we have more sponsors? You know, like my husband works in the reining industry, and John Deere sponsors the reining, and there's like 200 reiners. I mean, how many thousands of us are there? Every one of us has a tractor.
Oh, there's millions.
Every one of us has a drag. Every one of us has an arena. I mean, how many tires go on a dually and a horse trailer? I mean, why don't we have like some major corporate sponsorship along with what we've already got? But I mean, like to me, that this stuff could be so much bigger.
No, you're absolutely right.
Where to start to get it. I don't know, to get something going.
And that's it. I don't necessarily think that there's not enough fraternities. It's just the exposure.
There's not enough exposure.
Yeah. I mean, just like that, like when I got to do those ERA rodeos there, and that was just a 1 year short-lived thing. But just like that, like the year before that, I'd had the best year I've ever had in the futurity thing. I had 2 horses that won over 100,000, and I was off for 5 months because I was pregnant. Like I had good horses and was well known in the futurity thing, and nobody knew who I was. Right. And that's fine. I'm okay with that.
That was
like,
the
I don't
best meme ever.
Right. And it's fine. It really is. Like I don't need that exposure like for myself. I'm okay with that. I'm a fairly low key person. But like Joy said though, for the sponsorship part of it, like nobody knows what fraternities are. And so many of these horses that are doing so well in the rodeo thing and this and that came from the fraternity world. So how do we take the fraternity industry itself and get more exposure so that we can get bigger sponsorship? So it doesn't have to be that the stallion owners and the breeders and all these people have to put up the money to make big money.
It's the same group that
everybody's
are being bled every time. Like it's the same bunch of people that have to sponsor everything all the time.
Yeah. And it's always
that's
the
where
stallion
you
owners.
come in.
That's why you guys are here. I mean, let's talk about this stuff. And I mean, it's like, that's my personal goal, not just barrel race. I mean, yeah, that's a thing because the people I love, that's how they make their livings. All of them, except for one sister who still kind of does. You know, everybody that I care about, that's how they make their money. So it's very important to me that it grows. And I mean, but the whole rodeo Western industry as a whole should just keep growing. And there's so many opportunities for it, forums like this, all the social media outlets. I mean, that is such a resource for these type of things that I think all it's going to do is help. But
I think you have to find the right people to put in the right positions to do more promoting too. I know for one, like I would totally pay somebody else. I'm fairly tech challenged.
Me too.
I
Absolutely.
think that might be part of the problem.
Tech-tard is what that's called.
Yeah, tech-tard. All right, I'm definitely a tech-tard. And I don't really this is terrible. I don't really like to participate in it that much, like a lot of social media and stuff. I don't know why. I guess I'm old school, but I'm like, I mean, if somebody else, I don't even run my own Stallions Facebook page. Somebody else does it for me because, like, I'm terrible at promoting.
See, it's way out of my comfort zone, but I've been trying really hard on Instagram to.
You two are doing great. My
You're doing a lot of Instagram stuff.
I've been trying.
YouTube's
mostly fitness more than horses. Let's be real. You're in there.
It's not. It's mostly horses.
I don't
Maybe I was looking at the wrong part of your page.
Well, I mean, there's some fitness stuff. There's a part. So, the supplement company that I buy, that I use, their supplements. I love their supplements, but they do an athlete search. How cool would it be to have an athlete that's not a weightlifter and not
you
a
haven't
football
won it
player?
already?
I'm trying.
Well, what do we need to do to help? You should win it.
I don't think we
tell
can
them what it
vote on
is first.
Right.
So it's First Form Athlete Search, and they're all about some really great core values. Helping people, giving them the tools they need to be better, educating them, and building a community that's helpful and wants people to win. And how cool would it be to bring that to the arena? I mean, that's something completely un-Western that might make a big difference.
Say the name again, just so that we might be able to plug them. So
First Form
with
a PHORM.
It's gonna be tough to spell for Ty.
I mean, they don't spell stuff normal. It's all. What's that?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I can do my job.
You're getting better.
I think
Okay.
Joy needs to be in that picture up
Right,
there.
I do too.
Definitely.
You got one of those fishnet sports bras? Or maybe they'll get you one. I heard you have a six-pack. That's one of these.
I think we need to see the six-pack.
It's not really. I'm working on it.
Oh.
We're getting closer. By this time next year.
All right.
I went and worked out with her twice a couple weeks ago
too.
when I went to ride, and I could barely get on a horse 2 days later. My entire body hurt. I'm like, oh my God.
Me too.
What?
It took like 4 days.
Yeah, it hurt really bad.
Bad.
Yeah, I've only worked out. I worked out really solid for 2 weeks after that, actually. I need to go to Joy's again.
What kind of spurred the whole fitness passion?
I got tired of being outrun by 20-year-olds. I'm 42. I'm not a very good athlete. I'm working really hard to be a better athlete and to be a better jockey. And for me, I needed to be stronger. And I feel like my training program's pretty good. I need to be a little bit better competitor. I'm working on that too. But
What about that positive self-talk?
the whole physical aspect of it, it makes sense. We're performance athletes, same as those horses are. Whether you're going up and down the road like the rodeo girls and they don't get any sleep and they have long drives and everything's stressful, or you're a futurity trainer and you ride 15 head a day. I mean, like, it's physical. And to me, the more I looked at it, the more it made sense that we're performance athletes and we should probably take care of ourselves like we are.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about the industry now is it's catching up with that stuff. And that's a perfect example because you're seeing it a lot in rough stock, right? These guys have trainers, and it's funny, we had the guys from Decatur, Fit and Wise, in here the other day, but they train all of the PBR guys and a lot of the rough stock guys and a lot of tie-down ropers. And they were just talking about the difference in just the rodeo athlete as a whole, and how, like, if you looked in someone's bag, you'd see Copenhagen and maybe a beer and some things that we can't say on air, condoms, but stuff like that in their bag. And now it's pre-workout and it's a protein bar or a protein shake. And it's like,
You mean it's not a giant Coors Light?
yeah, not a giant Coors Light. Look at Joy. She's
look at her.
such
I know. She's
such
making
an
us look
advocate
bad,
for the
Joe.
healthy
Sure.
life. But you're seeing the evolution, and a lot of people may look at barrel racing and be like, "Oh, that's not athletic." But
Oh, it is.
Okay.
You riding one of those
Timing?
things going 30
Yeah, the
miles an
timing
hour and making a
involved.
corner.
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, because how many people have
Ask
you
our
seen
husbands.
fall off?
Right.
Yeah, right. It's a job to ride a 1D horse.
Yeah.
It is. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, that's what, I mean, I'm nowhere near as dedicated as Joy, but like when I was 22, I didn't think about it. I didn't really have to, I guess. But now, like, I'm 39 and like, I had started to catch up with me too. I mean, like I said, I'm not near that kind of dedicated, but I can't completely slack off anymore. And, you know, when people come ride or they come try a 1D horse, and they're, sorry if this offends anybody, but it's just the way it is. If you're 30 pounds overweight and you're not very strong, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to clock on that horse.
Well, you're not going to be able to clock, but you're going to get, I mean, look at how much whipped around we get.
Right.
And we do this every day, all day long.
Yeah. And I don't know, Joy's a lot better than me. I struggle to be that blunt with somebody. I mean, I have a couple times, but like, you need to lose 30 pounds, get fit, then maybe, you know.
Well, I mean, the difference between someone who doesn't have an extra 30 pounds, I'll just say that, and does on that horse's back, I mean, grab what's the equivalent of that, like maybe 8 pounds or something, 5 pounds, and then just run with it and see how much slower you are. I mean, it's just, if you think about it, just literally just from a physics standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And not to mention, if you're a bigger person and you're a barrel racer, your weight going one way changes the whole dynamic of a run.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's very, you know, it's very interesting that you bring it up. And I think a lot of people who want to do it, they hear like, y'all got to be fit. Like, it's important, I think.
Yeah.
I recently did a clinic with Phil Haugen, and something that he said in the clinic that really made sense to me, and it wasn't about weight or anything, but it was about just how you sit a horse and that feel. He said, you know, I'll think of it like if I was to go backpacking in the mountains and I was going to go buy a backpack. He's like, I don't want to buy a really hard, stiff backpack to put on my back, and then I have to go be athletic because it's going to make me stiff. And he's like, I want something that forms to my back, that's comfortable. You know, and his point was not to be tight on a horse's back, but I think it's the same with, you know, weight. And like I said, I'm not trying to pick on people or anything. Like, I definitely always have a little weight I could lose too. But
well, we all just came out of quarantine.
Right? I'm like,
except for you guys.
I also broke my ankle right before quarantine. So, you know, I have lots of excuses. But the point is, just like that, like, okay, do I want extra weight on my backpack either when I'm packing that around? You know, I mean, there's little things that we can do to help our horses. We do all these things, and we spend all this money on our horses to try to make them the best that we can, when sometimes really what we need to work on is us. Not only our fitness and the shape that we're in, but also just our cues and our hands and everything else. Horsemanship. Yep. You know, it's not about the horse. A lot of times it's about us, and we need to work on us. And Joy was probably one of the biggest influences in my life about making me resume responsibility for me. You know, she was really big on not letting me blame the horse, but take responsibility for my horsemanship. You know, she's been huge on that. And that's why I actually credit myself for Joy doing clinics. So any of you out there that got to go to a Joy Wargo clinic, thank you. You're welcome. You are welcome. Because I rode with Joy for years, and she helped me a lot. And I started doing some clinics when I was pregnant because I needed to, because I couldn't ride as many horses. And I told Joy so many times, I'm like, you need to do some clinics.
She's
like,
amazing at it.
Oh, so good.
She explains things so well.
And she's a good seer. Like, I'm a feeler. I have to get on your horse. I'll be riding with somebody, or I'll do lessons. I do lots of lessons too. And I'm like, I need to get on your horse. Mm-hmm. Joy doesn't have to get on somebody's horse to help them. She's a very good seer. So she's got a special gift there. And that's what I told her. I'm like, you need to do this. She was like, no. And I finally got her to do a clinic with me. I broke my arm the week before. Got this beauty.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Ooh, I thought that was a shark bite.
You broke your arm the week before, and in the first 20 minutes of the clinic, I had a horse flip over on me.
Oh, yeah.
That I brought with me. I'm like,
well, it was even a client's horse.
It was good.
It was a little embarrassing. Not the way you want to start that.
So the first clinic I ever did, I think it was Ashley's first two we did in Brazil. By design, because I'd never done one. There. I'm like, they can't understand what I'm saying anyway. There's translation, so I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this. Might as well test it out in another country. Ashley, you're coming too.
It was awesome. I was so excited. We flew 10 hours for 3 days.
Yeah.
And most of it was work.
And Ashley, they let Ashley drive one of their cars and got us high-centered on a, what was it, like an irrigation ditch?
Yeah, their roads were a little sketch. They were like goat trails. And they had really narrow cars.
Sure we were going to jail.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh my God, could you imagine going to jail in Brazil?
Right?
No.
Especially
That's why I
girls.
was like, you're going to let her drive? She's like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Good. It was on the way back from
be
the
fine.
restaurant / It's hard to make a futurity trainer uncomfortable.
Yeah, except maybe Joy.
Most of our lives. Yeah.
I
And
don't
you
know.
Just hug her a
I
lot, give her
literally
lots of
convinced Joy to drink an alcoholic beverage just
hugs.
now.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
proud of you for that.
I actually didn't have to push her that hard, which was surprising.
Can I tell the story real quick of how Joy and I became friends?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because that's probably weird to some people.
Do I even know the story?
I don't know.
You're going to tell that story?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
Take a sip, Joy. Take a sip.
Are we going? We good?
You're good. We've been on.
Yeah? We're on?
We've been on.
Oh, we're on. Oh, dear. Okay. So when I was working at Judd's, Joy, I just lived an hour from there, so she would come ride some. She was coming to get help from Jolene, so Joy and I became friends because we talked a lot.
Ashley talked.
Right. I was like, no.
But we became friends regardless. So when Jolene was leaving Judd's, which this is a whole really long story of its own, but I was fortunate enough, thanks to Jolene, to get to run some really sweet horses, including Dash to Heaven, and get to follow in her footsteps after she was leaving. So I had a couple futurity horses and Dash to Heaven. So I had 3 horses and Joy had 1, and we were going to go to Arizona. So we decided to jump in together. And we knew each other. We had hung out at the futurity some, and she would come up and ride some, but we'd never spent 20 hours in a pickup together.
Or stayed nearly a month in a trailer together.
2-3 weeks in a trailer together, in her trailer nonetheless. So
That makes
I had
it
3.
real quick.
Right. So I had 3 horses and she had 1, and she had a 4-horse with a living quarter. And all we had at the ranch at that time was a 9-horse with a tiny living quarter. So we took Joy's trailer and we headed out to Arizona. And I think I never stopped talking the entire 20 hours out there.
That's
I
so
think
hard to believe, Ashley.
I know you're surprised. I know. And I was not drinking or anything. It was just like, I talk a lot regardless. Never mind. But, it was great. I thought Joy might have a different side to this.
Let's
story.
hear your side of the
it,
story, Joy.
It was good. I thought you were going to tell the Starkville, Mississippi story. So
Oh,
that concerned me a little.
Oh, should we back up? That was
No.
before.
Oh, let's hear it.
good.
No, you have to
Oh,
tell
no,
me that.
Now it's
that
let's hear
bad?
it. Right. No, it was great.
Oh,
Actually, it was
well.
terrible for me. It was great for her. I don't know why she doesn't want me to tell it. So I was 22 years old at this time. Okay. And this is when I was still riding under Jolene or I was just helping Jolene, and it was Dash to Heaven's futurity year. And we all go to Starkville, Mississippi, and Joy has smoke. And I'm just hanging out, I mean, I'm working obviously, but I'm hanging out and I'm 22. So I'm having a good time. So we go bowling.
That was the time when it was so cold, wasn't
yeah.
it?
Yes,
So
it was
freaking
terrible.
cold.
Yeah.
So we go bowling one night. Joy doesn't speak, by the way.
yeah.
At this
This is when I was like, I don't know what story she's talking about. Now I do.
yeah. Joy, at this point, we don't even know if she does talk. Okay.
Right. And I don't think we'd ever seen her drink a beer.
Never seen her drink. And we go, and I was a little bit wild at that time. So I was like, all right, this is going to be fun. And so
For the people on audio,
Somehow-
explain your face when she said that.
When she said a little bit wild, like minor understatement. I mean, I was still pretty wild too, but Ashley had me beat by a minute.
I was really young. And I didn't have that many responsibilities. I mean, I did. I was still really responsible, though.
You were. Yeah.
That's
But
fine.
turns out this particular night,
So, Joy, how did it even come about?
you ordered pitchers of beer.
We were bowling.
We were bowling. Anyway, somehow we end up deciding to have a chugging contest of pitchers
Ooh.
of beer. I can't chug anyway. But it turns out I thought that I could beat her because I'm like, she don't even drink. I could beat her. She killed me. I mean,
Like,
she chugged a
annihilated.
pitcher of beer like it was water.
Yeah.
Like it was a cup of water.
We all
mean-
wondered where Joy went, and like this ghost took over her body and just chugged this pitcher of
Right.
beer.
I mean, she was like, boom. I'm like, That's how that went.
And then she opened up, got to talking and
yeah.
laughing. But we've only ever got to see this like
Twice.
maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often.
No.
You warned me it might happen here if you keep drinking those. So
We'll be here a long time before it happens.
I put quite a bit of vodka in there. just to see if I could make it happen.
But no. So then when we went on our Arizona trip, I don't know. I feel like we've been really good friends ever since then.
Yep.
You know, we just something about spending 20 hours in a pickup and then 3 weeks in a really tiny trailer.
She's probably the first person I've been able to stay with other than Trent.
That she then remained friends with. So
That I didn't kill
if
you
that
in
doesn't
that
tell
amount
you
of time.
something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's either you become great friends or you never speak again.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing I learned from Joy was how to be a really good stall cleaner.
Yes. Wow.
Some things need to be done right.
She's like, when you look at stall, when Joy cleans a stall, I would sleep in it when she gets done.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then when you look in the wheelbarrow, there's no dry shavings anywhere. It's all wet shavings and poop.
No.
And then it's only dry. I don't even know how she separates. Like, I used to swear that she probably like got down there, but then she does it really fast too. She's even faster at it than me, which is impressive. Anyway.
This is what impresses horse trainers. What we talk about when nobody's around. You think it's really important or deep? No.
He was like, this is going to be so entertaining. He's like, this was horrible.
Well, as someone who loathes cleaning stalls, I'm glad you guys find passion in it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. It's
I don't
like
either.
happy time,
It
especially
is.
like tomorrow morning. Me and Ashley both gave our help tomorrow off. Hopefully I'm not hungover, but just like nobody's around, just hanging out, cleaning stalls, and the few you like, you'll mess around, scratch on. You know, it's kind of nice, really. It's like downtime.
I guess if you're doing it for yourself, it's when you're doing it for other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to my next question. When you work for other people, I mean, how much of those demands that you get from when you work for people who own outfits, I mean, how much of that is it that pushed you away from that, if any?
I've been lucky enough to have some really great clients. You know, and you know, when I worked for Judd, specifically for Judd, they left me alone a lot. Like, Tim Kuzer was a ranch manager. He told me what I needed to ride. You know, nobody was like looking over my shoulder all the time. So I didn't have any problem with it at all. Like, there was nothing, you know, I never felt pressured or, you know, like someone was looking over my shoulder. And even now that I'm riding for myself, different clients, I have really great clients that are really understanding. They leave me alone. And, you know, if I get somebody new, I tell them up front. And don't get me wrong, I understand why people that send their horses off sometimes they don't know. They want pictures and videos and stuff. But I just tell them up front, you're not getting a picture every week. You're not getting a video. I don't have time. Nothing changes in a week. I hope you trust me because this is what it is. But, and like, if I'm not sure about the client, if they need too much interaction, it doesn't mean that I think there's anything wrong with the client, the horse owner, just not going to work for my program. And I try to catch that before I take a new customer's horse. But if not, I mean, I'll just talk to them and be like, no offense, but this isn't going to work. Try so-and-so. But I've never felt, I mean, there is the pressure. You don't want to fail them. But I don't know. I've had some really good clients that kind of just let me do my job, I guess.
I think those are the ones that work out the best. You have the most
Absolutely.
success for those guys that trust you to do your job.
Definitely. The ones that text you once a month, do you need anything? Hope the horse is good. Get me a video if you get a chance. And that's all you hear from them. Those are the best.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the only way we make money on these horses is if we win on them or they sell for a lot of money, like we talked already. So we're doing absolutely everything we can to make this horse as good as we can. Mm-hmm. So micromanaging it is not going to help.
Not at all.
You know, and I think most people, I've been lucky too. I've got good clients that understand that. And I understand it has to be hard. I think about this sometimes. I think about some of the horses that we've raised and the money we've invested and how much I love those horses and hope that they make. And I think about if I had to send those horses off to somewhere else and I didn't see them and I didn't know what was happening with them. And I think, man, that'd be hard. I do understand that completely.
The few times we've sent one off to get broke, or like we sent Seth, Ashley's husband, a colt to start roping before my husband started doing it. And I don't know, maybe not so much with that horse because I was pissed off at him and done with him anyway. Kirby wouldn't send him, but a couple we've sent off to be broke. Like, I won't call them and ask how they're doing because I'm like, you wouldn't want that person calling you and bugging you, so don't call. They'll call you when you need to know something.
Yeah. But you do think, I mean, I understand that from an owner standpoint that it's hard, but at the same time, you need to pick a trainer that you trust, that their program, you picked their program for a reason and you need to trust that and leave it alone because micromanaging doesn't work.
No.
If I feel like a client doesn't believe in me for whatever reason, I feel like they're always picking at me and wondering, and it makes me start to be a little edgy about that, and it doesn't help. It also sometimes will make you, if it's a process to get a horse to the winner circle, and not all of them come out winning right away. So if they don't come out winning right away, and I feel like the potential's there, and I'm going to go on with it, but the client is pushing me to win right now, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Because I can't push a horse to win right now. They're horses. They don't know. They don't know how much money their owner has spent. They don't know they don't care about how much effort I've put into this. At the end of the day, they're ready when they're ready. So if I put more pressure on a horse than it's ready for at that time, I'm going to end up doing more harm than good anyway. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I really feel like if people can just trust the process, they're going to be the most, those people that trust the process are the most likely to have success at the end. Either their horse wins a lot or they can go on to win on it or it sells for a lot. But that extra pressure from a client, it doesn't do anything good for the horses.
It doesn't. And it's so frustrating like when you have one and you've literally put a year and a half of working your ass off on getting them there, and you get to run it for the first futurity or 30 or 45 days, and they go, well, you're not winning enough. And they yank it and send it somewhere else. The amount of time and energy that went into that, man, that would have been nice to know in the beginning, because instead of charging what you charge, you charged another $300-400 on top of it. So you actually had a chance to make some money.
Yeah.
Because we didn't make anything in the process.
No. You worked your ass off for somebody else to get the credit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
Right. Yeah. And then they go to winning on it. So then.
Yeah. And I mean, let's be real. It's a community of horse trainers.
Right.
We know who those owners are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be very long. You won't be able to get anybody to ride your horse.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's
just like the ones who don't pay their invoices on
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Everybody
right.
knows who they are.
If you're a bad owner, people know.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's only like say, it's a small industry,
Well, and those kind of things, this is such an emotional deal all the time anyway. Like, the ups and the downs are ridiculous on the colts. They're good one day, they'll embarrass the crap out of you the next day. They're hurt. You might have one that should be a winner, and for some reason, stuff just never works for the dang thing. Like, it's always sore, or something happens all the time, and it never gets the credit. It never gets the limelight when it's maybe the best colt in the barn. And it's so tough on you anyway, just trying to stay hooked.
Yeah.
To keep doing it. And then, it's one thing when you have an owner that gets it, that they run barrels themselves, or they're like, man, it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Like, we'll get them the next trip.
They're the best.
Those kind are so appreciated.
And they're usually the ones that understand it because they've been in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little story. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I don't know how many. I had a really, really, really talented, well-bred 3-year-old that I thought was going to be a world beater. Ended up not being at first. And I had another horse that took a really, really long time to train, and he was really fragile. But his owner always believed in me and never pressured me or the horse, even when it wasn't looking good. Anyway, the 3-year-old that was supposed to be this great one and didn't turn out, I was beating my head against the wall, like, what is going on? And it was just negatively affecting my entire herd. And so I eventually let that horse go. Even though I'd won some on it, it was amazing. I just kept dragging barrels and it wasn't working. I let that horse go. Won a really big futurity the same week on the one that was taking forever to make and hadn't done anything yet. And it's just you keeping your head right, the moral of the story. Like, it's so much a mental game. And when you have something like over here nagging you, whether it's a horse or an owner or just a feeling you have, even if you think it's going to cost you, you have to let it go. Mm-hmm. And then, so like I said, I let that one go. And that very same week, I won that futurity on a really green one that hadn't won a dime yet.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point, because that's like, those are like two contradicting things.
Yeah.
One side of it saying stick with the horse, the other one saying let the horse go.
Right.
And it's just
and
knowing
it's a
what's
hard
what.
decision.
It is a hard decision, and knowing which is which.
That's probably the hardest decision out of training, period. Because you want to do right by the owners. You don't want to waste their money. You want to do right by the horse. And it's
how do you
tough.
know? It's
right.
hard, and that's the thing. Like I've had people before be kind of mad at me when I do decide, okay, I just can't. Like, well, couldn't you told me sooner? So I'm sorry, but no,
right?
Because how do you know? It's not like we're sitting over here like going on with one because we need the money, because it's not making us much. Like I said, by the time you pay the overhead of what it costs to keep a horse, we're not getting much training wise. You know what I mean? So I don't keep a horse in training because I need the money. You know what I mean? So I'm keeping it because I believe in it and I think I can make it. If I don't believe in it, I'm going to send it home. If I believe in it and I think that it can make, I'm going to keep going with it. Does that mean that every horse I think can make makes? No. But is there any way for us to know before we actually run down the alley for money? We don't know. Just like the horse that Jolene's talking about. When she was exhibitioning that horse, he out exhibitioned every horse going. But some of them...
She knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Some of them step up to that pressure and some of them don't. And no matter what, we can't replicate that. We can't go and put that same amount of pressure on. Even if we try to, the amount... And we don't mean to even change it. We exhibition these horses and we have them as prepared as we can. But when you put money on the line, and most of the time it's $100,000 that we're running out the first time.
No pressure, right?
You know, it blows up in your face so fast.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot, because your nerves take over, your adrenaline takes over, and you don't mean to. But no matter how experienced you are, it's different. It's a different feel for a 3-year-old.
Unless you're Cassie Mallory or Brandon Collins.
Or Troy Crumrine.
Right.
But we're not. Joy is right in there with them. Or Jolene's right in there with him. Joy and I are over here like... No, but really, it's just a different feel. And so I've had horses before. I'm back in 2014, I had these 2 horses that I thought were so nice, both of them. But the one outclocked the other one all the time. I thought he was my nicest one by far. The one that I thought was the nicest won $5,000 all year. The one that was always behind him in exhibitions won $20,000 and sold for $100,000 by April. You know, like totally blew my mind. But that's what I mean. Like, we can't tell, because some of them step up and do better under that pressure, and some of them just cave. They can't handle it. And there's no way of knowing. There really isn't.
Well, and that's exactly it. Like, I remember Bo Hill saying, you don't know till it's like you can win exhibitions all day long, but until you're entered, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And I thought, whatever. And then
So
I had a horse.
Bo Hill's kind of smart.
Junior.
No. One you won on a bunch on later on. And we run him down the alley for $100,000 and it didn't work out. And it scared him, and it took a long time to put him back together. And then, you know, we had to make some adjustments so that he had the opportunity to be put back together. Ashley was able to fix him, and she won a bunch on him later on in the year, and it ended up working out. But I never would have guessed that was going to be the one that caved.
Well, and horses change so much. I mean, look at top rodeo horses, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of top rodeo horses didn't win a dime futurity.
Right.
Yes.
Horses change just like people, and a lot of people don't.
And some of them
realize
make
that.
futurity horses and others don't, but it doesn't mean they don't make horses down the road. And that's the other thing I want to touch on. Like, I have quite a few, I have a whole bunch of horses eligible to run next year, so I have some for sale. And I feel like as futurity trainers, like, it's hard for us to sell a prospect because people think we're calling them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I just want to touch on that a second. If I'm selling one, like, it doesn't mean that they're not good enough.
No.
Sometimes it's because they don't fit me, but I have a completely different style than these two or than a lot of these people watching, you know? So just because a horse doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for the next person. You know what I mean? And so,
And we're broke fairly often.
right.
So
we
sometimes it's just because we're broke.
but I think there's something to that.
I
Like,
think there's so many things that affect that, you know, like I usually don't have to sell any horses because my owners all plan to ride them when I get done. So
Yeah.
it's not
Do
an
you have
issue.
a different clientele?
Yeah, completely different. Well, that's shifted. I mean, I'm still riding for the same people, but you know, like Katie's got a breeding program.
Yeah. So she
David's
started to sell.
got a breeding program, and his daughter's graduated high school, doesn't really want to run barrels, and so they're, you know, one hand's got so many horses. What are you going to do with all of them? We can't have 10 a year in training, or
Right.
else the training bill's ridiculous. So we've got to sell some of those horses, and some of them, you know, they're nice. Others we barely get started, and we need to sell, and they're all good horses, and you know, like where David, none of them are going to ride anymore.
Right.
We're going to sell most of them now, whether we do it early on or late in the year or after they've maturity, but pretty much all of them are going to go at some point. So all of a sudden my deal's kind of shifted, and I'm like, man, I got to start selling horses.
And I know, and most of the time clients too, but I think some people know this, but everybody should. If a trainer is selling their own horse, they're always going to sell it because that's how we make money. So it's going to be priced right. If we hate it, we're going to give that sucker away. It's going to be cheap. If we have one priced really high, that's a nice sucker.
yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. We're not, like, usually when I price one, I price it for what I think it's worth at that time. I'm not trying to gouge anybody.
No.
I'm not a horse trader. I don't do this for, you know what I mean? That's not what we do, you know, but we have to sell them.
That's what I always
have
tell.
6
Well, we all see
eligible
the
to run
people
next
who
year.
don't, and then something happens, and
But
the
I would-
value's gone like that.
Yeah.
Because they're flight animals, and they're going to run through a fence. They're going to do something, and $100,000, $1 million could be gone the next day.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice because you
Right.
could miss your window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell any clients, whether they're mine or somebody else's, especially if they're looking for a nice 3-year-old. Like now, I got a call the other day. This time of year in the fall, you know, there'll be a couple people wanting a good 3-year-old. Well, they're pricey right now. And I always tell anybody looking, you buy the trainer's colt. If they have it priced high, because they'll sell it to you because they're broke. They have to. That could be your best chance of getting the best one. If the trainer owns it,
Right.
that's the one you buy.
Well, and they don't realize how hard it is for the trainer to get that horse, too, sometimes.
Right.
So if you're
Where-
selling it, it's because you don't have a choice.
Yeah. So like our clients' horses, they're not for sale because they have the money. They're doing this for fun or a tax write-off.
Right.
But-
the horse investors, as I call them, there's more of them now than like
Yeah.
ever before.
Yes.
But
Right.
the
And that's what
investors-
most of my clients are.
Right.
That's
That
so
very
funny.
few of mine ride them.
Because I used to always say, I'm like, because people would say, like when I ran KR last fling, she was a really good mare I ran in 2015, and people are like, oh man, don't you just wish you own her? I'm like, actually, no.
I would've sold her.
I would have had to sell
Right.
her a long time ago. I would not have got to win $100,000 on her because I wouldn't have been able to afford to hold on to her.
Well, I remember Latrice had told me when we sold Smoke, you know, if it's life-changing money, you got to do it, especially if you're a horse trainer, right?
Yeah.
Well, some days 5,000 is life-changing money. Some days it's 100,000 that's life-changing
This
money.
will change my life because I can pay my bills.
Yeah, I'm not going to be homeless if we sell this one for pennies.
I've had to sell a few. I don't know. A few people asked me, I don't know if you ever saw it or remembered, when I won Fort Smith on J-Lo's sister,
Yeah.
Get Fab's Mist of Fame.
Yep.
And I had to lift my leg like clear over my head to miss the second and third
Uh-huh.
barrel.
Yeah.
People, like several
Kenny
people,
and them were real proud of that. Yeah.
they're like, how did you not fall off? How did you do that? I was like, was about to get my truck repoed. I was about 3 payments behind and didn't have enough money to get home.
I mean, that's real right there.
That is real.
I mean,
And
that's
it was legit.
real.
It was real legit.
She told me before, she goes, I have to win. When Jolene tells you when she gets to a fraternity that she needs, like that she has to win,
you're broke, it's over.
like you're officially going for second place.
Well, you know what's so interesting about all fraternity people? Not all. You should never say all about anything, but almost everybody who sits their ass in a barrel saddle knows about that or has, or, I mean,
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and I just know this because I know this, but people get certain looks or certain preconceived judgments on them because those people who are having those judgments don't actually know what you just said.
Yeah.
And that most trainers have been there, will be there,
Right.
in kind of this cycle, this
Yeah.
loop. It just is always like that.
And I used to get really hard on myself. Like, are you terrible with money? Like, what is wrong with you? But then you look at our budgets, like they're all over the place for one. And then every time we win some money, we reinvest it in more horses. And
Or
just
the barn, or a truck.
And try to do the best buying we can and get ourselves in jams, just trying to get ahead.
Well, just and trying to pay off debt that you do have from it.
Yeah.
Because
Vet bills and
well,
those.
that's the thing. It takes so much. And I feel like we are all super lucrative with our money. Like, we don't have $100,000 horse trailers and big fancy pickups.
No.
We have what we can afford,
My
and we go
pickup's
with
pretty
it.
cool because Kirby bought it. I would have bought the cheap one.
You know, it's okay. But the point is, it just costs a lot. I mean, we have to have a 7-horse trailer. I would love to have a 7-horse trailer with a big, nice living quarter, but I can't really afford that right now. So I'm doing what I can and what I can afford. But the overhead is crazy.
Yeah. And
The feed bills.
Don't get us wrong. We are by no means complaining.
No,
Like, we live this, love
we
this.
love it because
Yeah.
we're passionate about
No,
it. and
I
we're doing
ran from it. So you guys, I mean,
it. You know that it's just
until I was about 20 years old, I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm a horse trainer. I mean, literally. And then I was
Then you're like, wait, there's another way.
there is another way.
Literally, when people come to work for me, I just tell them, I'm like, I just want you to see this. I want you to see the real picture, because sometimes what people see is they see the wins. They see the $100,000 paycheck. They see the beautiful videos on Facebook. They see all the cool stuff. But behind the scenes is the struggle to
It's
make
messy.
it all work and to get to that point. And they see that when you do win that big check, it's spent. You just have to disperse it wisely.
Right.
You know, like
A lot of
already
it's
spent.
spent before you get there.
it's
Definitely.
already been spent. Now
Yeah.
we're going to use it to pay off some debt here
Right.
and reinvest here or whatever we have to do. But, you know,
another
it's
semi-load
not
of
super
hay.
lucrative. Yeah. But we love it.
Yep.
So we do it anyway because we're
But
crazy.
there are times, like when we win a bunch, we feel like we're semi rich for a minute.
Doing it.
Yeah,
We're going to be able to retire young.
right.
Yeah.
Like somebody said something the other day. I have a 5-year-old son at Dash 7 that's a stallion, and he's beautiful and great. Oh, but I mean, I know the odds. Yeah, he's winning some, but I know how this business works. I'm realistic. They're like, oh, is that your retirement plan? I was like, psh.
I wish.
I wish, yeah.
That and a lottery ticket.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, what was interesting for me is I had insight and kind of watching Kelly, my dad, try to breed Tibby, to get a Tibby. And that process started when I was a little kid.
Right. That's what
Back-
people don't see.
They don't. And so many different horses and different combinations and different things go together to try to get that 1 in a million, you know, and it's a little different when you take client horses and it belongs to them. But let's say you want that for yourself. Like, you've got that stud, right? And that's what made me think of it. It's like, there were so many bums
Oh,
before
so
there was
many.
one rock star. I mean, it's just, you're just rolling the dice every time. Yeah. But it's just something that no owner, very few will probably ever understand, that you guys all get. That, I mean, you guys are a rare breed of people, just truly a rare breed of people. I mean, fraternity trainers and rodeo people in general, you know, lump it all together, call it all rodeo, call it all Western, whatever you want to call it. There's that, right? But then there's barrel fraternity people over here just kind of walking on their own hamster wheel doing what you guys do, and it's just a totally different thing. And it kind of leads me into my other point, because this is really, I don't know if I would call it a point, but I always like to ask, because you get a very specific stance from WPRA people on male barrel racers, right? And I'm not one. Like I way prefer roping over barrels, but that's what I grew up in. It's all I knew. It was the most important thing was barrel horses, and I never saw it as like I always saw it as a gender fluid thing because it's a race, just a horse race. Like it's a love for a fast horse. But the WPRA people, it's like they had to fight for that equal money and they had to do that. And I get their stance, right? But for you guys, it's like there are so many impressive over the last 20 years. I mean, your Troy Crumrides, your Chris Coffees, your Brett Monroes, your Jamie Hunt. You could name, just keep going, right? What do you guys think about that? Because there's just such a weird. It just bothers me that there's this misconception.
Right? Could you guys pick up a rope, please, so that we didn't have to compete against you?
Exactly. No.
I mean, I'm just saying, I hate the WPRA finals, but I go for that reason. No, I'm just kidding. I don't hate it, and that's not why I go. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
That's a really funny joke, actually.
Yeah, that was good.
But it is. There's just this weird, I just have never understood it myself, and it's probably because there's a weird bias there. But as somebody who actually way prefers roping, always have. But it's just an interesting
I think
idea,
with
right?
all the calls for equality these days, I don't think any group should be able to exclude anybody, whether you're the majority or minority or anywhere in between.
What?
Or if you're going to be able to exclude,
What better
make it
way to
two
be
ways.
the best of the best than to have to work and run against everyone?
Right.
I mean, like you said, it's a horse race.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is. Literally, it's a horse race.
How much more gratifying is it if you outrun everyone, not just the girls?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's
Doesn't the PRCA let women ride rough stock if they want?
Mm-mm.
They don't?
WPRA has its own rough stock stuff, just for those
Yeah,
WPRA
there.
finals. Yeah.
Oh. I didn't think there was a PRCA law against it.
Not that I know of. Or maybe just no one ever in their right mind has. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
could
climbing
pull
on the
the
back
pull
of a
the
bull.
rule book, but
So what happens to the entries at the pro rodeos if the guys can run barrels too?
Right. Let them in.
it's never going to happen. The
Probably
WPRA fought so hard for that equal money, and I get that, right? It's the only thing they've got. But I mean, now like the WCRA and the American are letting them break away now, which is great. But
That's really cool for the girls at rope.
it is.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
so cool because
it-
it's so tough.
Does
Yeah.
the
I mean-
WCRA let guys compete in the barrel race?
Yeah.
They do.
Yep.
I think that's cool.
I don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't either. I mean, except for when they beat me. 'Cause I don't like
It's
to lose.
really bad, but
Just
I don't
kidding.
really care that much either way. Is that bad to say?
I don't
think
think
I'm
so.
the same
I mean, I
way.
asked
I
the
don't-
question. Is it bad that I asked the question?
No.
I'm
kinda
probably going to
welcome
get
the
flack for
competition.
that.
Yeah.
Gonna get-
I
We're
agree.
We don't care.
I think
We're
if you're
not gonna-
competitive, it doesn't matter.
Right,
Because you
yeah.
want to be number one and it doesn't matter who it's against.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree though with that as far as like I'm not necessarily going to go fighting with the WPRA to try to get them to let guys.
Yeah.
you know,
I'm not saying that
'cause it-
WPRA should.
yeah.
But it's an interesting question. Probably going to get roasted for asking it, but it's an interesting question. I've always thought.
But I think
for
it's
a lot of
cool.
things.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that the American and the WCRA and those different things are allowing guys to do it because I think what's hard for guys is like other than the futurities, what can they do?
Right.
So
and they
if
work
they
just as
have-
hard as us to get the
Oh.
horses there. Why shouldn't they
Yeah,
have the
you
same
know, and so
opportunities
that's-
to compete?
Well, and a lot of them, I mean, Brandon trained one of the ones that Cheyenne made the finals on.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
they're training just as many winners at rodeo as the girls are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's always been a thing over the years. Like, I just don't want to have to ride behind one of those guys. But to be honest with you, most of those guys have really great horsemanship and
Yeah.
it'd be great to ride behind. You know, like, I think they're, you know, especially, you know, Brandon and Pete
Craig.
And I mean, there's so many of them that to me, I watch them and I'm like, oh, that looks beautiful. That looks really
Yeah.
fun to ride. You
Yeah.
know, like, I don't think they're that hard to ride behind. I think they have really great horsemanship. And I think horsemanship in general has come so far over the years, even in the, you know, 10, 11 years that I've been in the futurity thing, just watching it grow. I think horsemanship has just grown to a whole new level.
So far.
I think
Everywhere.
it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's so tough anymore. You can't just pull one through the barrel, like pull them through the turns and handle them. And like,
I think some people in other disciplines, like the cow horses or reiners, are shocked sometimes when they see how broke some of our horses are.
Yeah.
Like, it blows their minds because all they have pictured is this crazy barrel horse. And
Yeah.
Well, that's a preconceived notion about barrel horses,
We're the
right?
joke
Yeah.
to the rest of the Western industry.
Right.
Like, the other disciplines, they're like, oh, barrel racer.
Until
Until
I'm going to call
today.
somebody out here and he'll think it's funny.
$1.75 million.
Steve Archer, he's trained some great reining horses, and he's been playing around with some barrel horses the last few years, and he's come and rode with us, and we rode with him, and he's like, y'all are talented to get those suckers. Let them go wide open and then get them in the ground and make them turn. Like, he has full appreciation.
Well,
That's
I mean,
how Phil
one of
was.
the neatest thing was that day we got to ride with Todd Bergen.
Yes. Yeah,
And-
that was awesome.
And he goes, man, this is just like when we go down the fence. And, you know, for him to even spend an afternoon riding with us was pretty cool.
It was cool.
Way cool.
Phil was really good about that too. When we did that clinic, he was like, man, he's like, I feel like this is the most grueling sport in rodeo. He's like, everybody thinks it's just running around three barrels. He's like, you're asking these horses to do more than any other horse in the sport of rodeo. It's like they have to get in reaction mode and then thinking mode 4 different times through that run. You're acting those horses to react wide open and then come back and think
I don't
4
think
times.
some people realize the difference between I guess just know the physics and the mentality of a horse when they're in all out run flight stage, and to bring them back
Yes.
and come down and allow you to handle them and ask them to turn and then go back to a dead run.
And getting one to do that, just getting them to come from that
Yeah.
full out to back to handle to back to full out that many times throughout a run is really difficult.
I mean, it's kind of, if you break it down like that, it's like, how can anybody, if you like horses, are a horseman of any kind, how can you not appreciate what that is?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you can appreciate, which just leads to, like, the sport should be bigger, right? If you can enjoy the Kentucky Derby,
Yeah.
one circle,
Yeah.
how can you not enjoy 3 of them in a tiny
Right.
dirt
Right,
pen?
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just such an interesting event because of how much that's required of the animal.
Yeah.
I'm still in awe of the ones that do it for you so hard. Like I was saying about the studs earlier, great stud, mare, gelding, it doesn't matter. Like, when you have a truly great one, when you come out of the pen after one of those great runs, you're just like shocked. Like, why did that horse even do that for me? Why would they?
Yeah.
If you think about that, they're just an animal.
Right.
It's amazing.
And they try so hard, run as hard as they can, bury it up 3 times in home, like Ashley's talking about. When like the average horses, they either won't turn that hard or they'll turn hard and decide they don't want to run. Like, I'm not even mad at them. I'm like, well, yeah, I get it.
It's just
wanna
the
be
ones
fed.
that do. Honestly, I can tell you, I am not a crier. And I've been in tears more times after a run like that
Oh, yeah.
than I want to even admit.
Definitely.
Just because of the awe that I have. I can't remember how many times, I can't tell you how many times on Dash to Heaven and KR Last Fling. Those are the 2 that really come to mind for me, that I was in tears when I was done running
Yep.
them, just in awe at the try that they just gave me.
Yep.
Well, every run on one of those horses is a blessing. I
It
mean,
is.
it's,
Yep.
you have to
Everyone.
appreciate every trip down the alley on one that's great.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think pretty much anybody who hears this is going to want to watch you guys, see it, you know, each of your careers continue to progress. And I know Jolene, Ashley, Joy, you guys are at the top of your games right now, and it's going to be really fun to see what you guys do. And I'm really thankful that you guys got to be here on a really cool day, like a historical day, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a historical day, and it just so happened you guys are in the studio while that disbursement sale was going on and all that happened. And I don't know, it's kind of like a cool omen, hopefully, for the sport, that on the day that horse that you both rode sold for the most money ever, and you guys kind of laid it all out on the show. I really appreciate you guys coming on.
We appreciate the invite. It was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love doing it. So I'm so glad you guys came.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to do it again.
So I came to the world and everything that it's got.
This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content produced by Casey Burke. Our theme song is by Shay Ashshire and the Night Howlers. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcast. And guys, don't forget to go to silverliningherbs.com and use the promo code GAUGE for that nice little 15% discount. We'll see you guys next time.